You picked it up again. You already know you did. Maybe it was sitting face down on the table, maybe it was in your pocket, maybe you had just put it down 30 seconds ago. It didn't matter. Your hand found it anyway. And the strange part is, you're not even sure what you were looking for. That moment right there, that reflexive, almost unconscious reach, is not a bad habit you developed. It is something far older, something that was built into you long before the phone existed, long before electricity existed, long before cities or language or even fire. To understand why you cannot stop checking your phone, you have to go back to the thing your brain actually is, a survival machine designed for a world that no longer exists. Your brain has not changed meaningfully in about 200,000 years. The hardware running your thoughts right now is the same hardware that kept your ancestors alive on the African savanna. And that hardware had one obsessive, relentless, never-sleeping job: not to make you happy, not to help you focus. Its job was to notice, to scan, to check. Because in the environment your brain evolved for, missing something could kill you. A rustle in the tall grass, a silence where there should have been bird sounds, a change in the smell of the air. Your ancestors who failed to notice those things did not survive long enough to become your ancestors. The ones who did survive were the ones whose brains could not stop scanning, could not stop checking, were permanently biologically wired to ask, "Is there something I missed?" That brain is sitting in your skull right now, and it found a phone. In 2016, researchers Larry Rosen, Nancy Cheever, and Elmar Carrier published findings from a series of studies examining what they called the iPhone effect, the measurable anxiety people feel when they are separated from their devices. What they found was not just preference or habit. When participants were not allowed to answer their ringing phone during a cognitive task, their heart rate climbed, their blood pressure rose, their cortisol levels, the body's primary stress hormone, increased. Their brain treated the unanswered notification the same way it would treat a threat. Not metaphorically, biochemically. Think about what that means. Your body does not know the difference between a text message you have not read and a predator you have not seen. The mechanism is identical. The signal your nervous system sends is the same. Miss something important, and you die. That is the logic baked into your biology. Your phone just gave that logic a new trigger, but it goes deeper than threat detection. Because checking is not just about avoiding danger, it is also about reward. And this is where the phone becomes something genuinely unprecedented in human history. Your brain runs on a chemical called dopamine. You have probably heard of it described as the pleasure chemical. That description is wrong, or at least incomplete. Neuroscientist Berridge spent years at the University of Michigan demonstrating that dopamine is not actually about pleasure at all. It is about wanting. It is about anticipation. Dopamine is the chemical that fires before you get the reward, not when you get it. It is what makes you reach, what makes you seek, what makes you check. And here is the key. Dopamine does not fire when the reward is predictable. It fires when the reward is unpredictable, when you are not sure if the thing you want is going to be there or not. In behavioral psychology, this is called a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, and it is the most addictive reward pattern that exists. It is how slot machines work, it is how gambling works, and it is exactly how your phone works. Sometimes you pick it up and there is a message that matters. Sometimes there is nothing. Sometimes there is a notification that turns out to be meaningless. You never quite know. And that uncertainty, that maybe, is what your dopamine system feeds on. Every time you reach for your phone and find something interesting, the signal strengthens. Every time you reach for it and find nothing, the wanting does not go away. It increases. Because your brain learns, the reward is here somewhere. I just have to keep looking. B.J. Fogg, a behavioral scientist at Stanford University who has spent 2 decades studying the psychology of persuasion and technology, has described how the modern phone is the most perfectly designed behavioral trigger ever created. It sits in your pocket, close to your body, generating tiny vibrations and sounds that your nervous system is exquisitely sensitive to. It is warm, it is personal, it responds to you. And it delivers exactly the kind of unpredictable, variable, socially loaded reward that your ancient brain was specifically designed to chase. You are not weak for checking your phone constantly. You are a 200,000-year-old organism encountering a device engineered by teams of behavioral scientists to be as close to irresistible as technology currently allows. The deck is not stacked against you, it was built against you with precision. And then there is the social dimension. Because your brain does not just scan for physical threats, it scans for social ones. For most of human evolutionary history, being excluded from your group meant death. You could not survive alone. You needed people for food, for protection, for mating, for childcare. Being cut off from your tribe was not an inconvenience, it was a death sentence. And so your brain evolved an extremely sensitive early warning system for social exclusion, for missing what the group was saying, for being left out of something that mattered. Your phone is now the primary channel of your social group. When you feel that pull to check it, part of what you feel is that ancient alarm firing. What is happening? What did I miss? Is something going on without me? Psychologist Amy Cuddy at Harvard Business School has studied how social exclusion activates many of the same brain regions as physical pain. Your brain does not separate the two cleanly, and missing a message, being left unread, not knowing what your people are saying, your brain files all of it under the same category as being left behind. This is why the most powerful pull happens at exactly the wrong moments. When you are sitting with someone you love, your phone feels like it matters more. When you are trying to focus on something important, the urge intensifies, because your threat detection system is most active when there is something valuable at stake. Your brain does not stop scanning just because you told it to. It cannot. It is doing exactly what it was built to do. There is a study you may never have heard of. In 2014, Timothy Wilson and colleagues at the University of Virginia asked participants to sit alone in a room for 15 minutes with nothing to do, no phone, no book, nothing. Many of them found it so uncomfortable that when given the option to administer mild electric shocks to themselves instead, a significant number chose the shocks. The researchers were not trying to prove something about phones, but what they revealed is something profound. Your brain is so averse to an empty, unchecked moment that it will choose pain over stillness. It needs something to scan, something to check. And when there is nothing, the anxiety of not scanning becomes unbearable. Your phone is the thing that fills that unbearable space. That is not a bug. That is not a character flaw. That is an ancient machine responding to a modern environment it was never designed for. So what do you do with this? That is the harder question. Because knowing the mechanism does not automatically disarm it. Knowing that the pull is biological does not make the pull disappear, but it changes the relationship you have with it. It removes the shame. It lets you look at the habit clearly without self-punishment and ask, what is my brain actually looking for right now? What would actually satisfy this? Because what your brain wants is not the phone. It never was. It wants to know that nothing is wrong. It wants to feel connected. It wants to find the thing in the grass before it finds you. It wants to be part of the group, to not miss the moment that matters. The phone is just the newest object onto which something ancient has been projected. Tonight, when you put your phone face down on the table and feel that familiar pull to flip it over, you will know something you did not know before. The hand reaching for it is not a sign of weakness. It is 200,000 years of survival reaching toward a light it mistakes for fire. And the question is no longer why you check. The question is whether you can learn to let the fire wait.